This case here is the Fractal design Torrent, and it's finally started coming back on the market after a quick recall from Fractal upon release. Now, I already did a video outlining this entire case and building an ultra powerful rig in it, so if you want to check that out, I'll leave a link in the description below. In the video, I covered the recall completely, and spoiler alert, everything is fine now, so go buy this case, even though it's $200. But I figured since this is the biggest case I have in the studio, why don't I put the smallest components I have here into this case? For those of you that haven't watched my review video on this case, if you don't want to go check it out, just the basics of this thing, this is the Fractal design Torrent. It comes in around $189.99 USD, but after you pay for shipping and tax and everything, you're over $200. So it's not a cheap case by any means. But what you get with the case, you get a full ATX form factor, you get two 180mm front fans and three 140mm bottom fans, mounted already in the case, ready to go with the included fan hub, which is a nice touch. Now here I have the gray with the light tinted side glass. They come in a variety of colors and combinations of glass, no glass. The website has everything. I'll leave a link down below if you want to check out their site. And like I said in the intro, this is a big case. This is the biggest case that I have. The box is even bigger than this. Actually, here, check out the box. This is huge. Now I forget where I was. Anyway, why don't I just talk about the components that I'm gonna put in here and just get started on everything. This video is really just for fun for me. I'm gonna outline the components to you that I wanna use for this. I'll throw it all together in a little montage or maybe do some talking. And then I'm gonna plug it in over here on the test bench and run it up and see how it plays games. The parts that I'm using in the rig here, obviously the very first thing, the smallest components, I wanna talk about the motherboard. This is the MSI B550i Gaming Edge Max Wi-Fi. It's a long name. This is an ITX motherboard. It has Wi-Fi built in and it's Ryzen 5000 ready, so I don't need to do any BIOS updates or anything. I just drop the CPU in and it's ready to go. Speaking of the CPU, I'm using the ever popular Ryzen 5 5600X. This became super popular recently since its release because it's one of the best gaming CPUs out there. This CPU keeps up with any of the Intel i9 or i7 parts for gaming. Now I'll be using the Wraith Spire cooler over the Wraith Stealth cooler. If you buy this CPU, it comes with the Wraith Stealth. That's the smaller, shorter version. The Wraith Spire looks just like it on the front, but it's a taller heat sink, so it gives you a little bit better heat dissipation. For RAM, I'm using 16 gigabytes of Corsair's Vengeance RGB Pro. Pretty simplistic, 3200 megahertz, and it's two 8 gig sticks. To supply power, I'm using the Corsair CX650M. It's an 80 plus bronze power supply, nothing real fancy, but it's partially modular, so any of the cables I don't need, I can just pull out of the power supply and not even use them. For storage, I'm using the Samsung 980 Pro NVMe SSD. This is the 1 terabyte version. And finally, the ever all popular GPU. This is the EVGA RTX 3060 XC Gaming. It's a very small graphics card. I did a full review video on this and you should actually go check it out because this is the graphics card that I recommend to everybody right now. It's only a couple bucks more than the RTX 3060 and you get way more performance. In fact, you're closer to 3070 performance than you are to 3060 performance. So go out and buy this card if you can find it. I understand. So that's it for the parts list. Why don't I rip this stuff out of the boxes and get it into the case? Okay, finally put that thing together, got it over here at the test bench. I'm gonna play a couple games with it. What I wanted to do, actually, this is kind of cool. I like this angle and I like the lighting and everything. I might try to like set a camera up here from now on because it's kind of different. What I decided to do is hook everything up and just play the game for you. I usually run testing and everything and benchmarks and all that jazz. It just doesn't give you a realistic look at the game. So why not just boot it up, run through it, and kind of show you where I'm at. Now, before I start that, I want to give you a little bit of insight in building in the case with an ITX motherboard. It was actually just as easy as it was when I built in it the first time. The only thing I didn't like is because the motherboard's so tiny, you have to find more different holes to run your cabling through than you would if it was a full-size ATX board. So the cables really just aren't made to move that direction. And then an ITX motherboard, as you can see in the video, has different spots that are mounted for your connections. So the front pin connectors have to go all the way over to the left side of the board here, which is near your IO shield. And I had to like snake it up over the graphics card. I ended up having to unplug and replug the graphics card about 5 times because of just moving connectors around. I should have saved that till the end and I didn't. My mistake. But you can also see I have the cables coming through the motherboard cutout, not through the actual grommeted cutouts that are made for the cables, because it looked silly when I routed the cables around and they came from all the way over here. So let's get into some of these games and show you how this thing performs. Of course, we can't get into any games until we do the Windows updates. Okay, the first thing I played was Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Actually, I didn't play it, it's a built-in benchmark, but all these benchmarks and games were done at 1080p, max settings or ultra settings. You can see here I've blown up MSI Afterburn in the top corner. I'm getting about 130 FPS in this game, 73C on the CPU, 60C or 66C on the GPU. You want to find that 100% utilization there. 98% is really good for the GPU. That's how you know you don't have a CPU bottleneck. Next game up is Rainbow Six Siege. I love throwing this in here because it's a popular esports game. It has been for many years. Now, of course, I'm getting almost 400 there. It passed 400 FPS in this game. It's really not that demanding. This is on ultra settings, the highest I could possibly set it to. It's 60 degrees on the GPU, 65 degrees on the CPU. That's really, really good. I can't ask for anything better on this. This combo setup performs really, really well, and the temperatures are extremely good. The last game up was Apex Legends. I love including this as the popular esports game now. It's very fast paced. You can see I'm getting 140, 144 FPS. I'm at 64C on the GPU and 66C on the CPU. Now, if you see any screen tearing, that's because I don't have a G-Sync enabled monitor. I just have to deal with what I've got. The last thing I decided to do was Cinebench R23. This is just a benchmark software. It stresses the CPU to be able to create the most heat possible on that thing. I use Core Temp to monitor my temperatures while I'm doing this. It's the program in the bottom corner here. You can see it's got 100% load on all the cores. It's running at about 4.2 gigahertz, and it pushes the temperature up to about 70C during this test. This is the worst case possible scenario that's going to happen to this build because it's 100% stress. You saw in the games, it was hitting anywhere between 55 to 65 Celsius. In my eyes, I think that's really, really good temperatures. Oh, and one of the things I thought was really cool, because the case has the fan hub built into it, as you might have seen in the video, that all the fans, these 2 front fans and the 3 bottom fans, are plugged into that fan hub. All I need is one 4-pin connector on my motherboard. That's why I was able to use the ITX motherboard in this giant, massive case, because all these fans are running on one header. This was really just a joke to do. I wanted to see how the biggest case I have looks with the smallest components, and I honestly think it looks ridiculous. Why waste all this space? But that airflow though, right? That's really all I wanted to do with this. I wanted to make a fun, quick little video where I got to throw the most ridiculous components in the most outrageous case. that I had on hand. And if you like the build or like the video, don't forget to subscribe down below, give me a like for the YouTube algorithm, and just let me know I'm doing a good job and I should continue doing this in the future. And finally, I really just want to thank everyone that's subscribed and keeps coming back to the channel. This is just something I picked up as a hobby. I didn't think about making money on this. I didn't think about doing this as a profession or anything. I just really love tech. I love building computers, and I've finally been able to turn my hobby into something that I can share with you. So until the next video, as I always say, I'm Danny with Danny's Tech Channel, and I'll see you in the next one.